Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, more discussion of the video of David McAtee's killing and the latest on protest news around the state. I'll also talk about the unique summer meet with Keeneland's VP of Racing and Sales. All that and more is next on Hey, Kentucky. Well, welcome to Hey, Kentucky, along with LEX18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. Keith, how you doing tonight?
Doing all right, just holding in there.
Yep, we're all still in this together. Let's get to the top of the news, though. Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher is calling for a top-to-bottom review of the city's police department following recent events. The latest involves the shooting death of a restaurant owner during a protest. The video released yesterday by LMPD is from inside David McAtee's barbecue stand, and we want to warn you that it is graphic. McAtee is wearing a red shirt. Police and the National Guard were called in to break up the crowd early Monday morning. Interim Police Chief Rob Schroeder says the video shows McAtee firing a gun as officers approached. But LEX18 News reviewed the video, and it does not appear to show definitively if a gun is in his hand or whether he fired a weapon. Although moments after, the man in the white t-shirt is holding a gun, and the woman on the left appears to point at a gun that McAtee dropped after apparently being struck by at least one bullet. Police released video from outside the restaurant as well, taken from a neighboring business. The restaurant door is off screen on the right. A puff of smoke comes from that area, which police say is a gunshot. Then officers returning fire at McAtee.
Mr. McAtee firing a gun outside of his business door as officers who were using pepper balls to clear the Dino's lot were approaching his business. This video does not provide all of the answers, but we are releasing it to provide transparency. It does not answer every question.
Governor Beshear is also commenting on the video, telling Kentuckians to review it and form an educated opinion. The governor also repeated his call for swift investigation into the shooting and says he is scaling back the National Guard's presence in Louisville. The city experienced its sixth straight night of protests last night. The acting police chief says 20 arrests were made and shots were fired at officers, but no one was hurt. I think, Keith, some of the things that I would love answers to is they were using rubber bullets everywhere else. So why not at Dino's?
I guess mainly because of the shots that were fired, whether it was from McAtee or whether it was from the guy, as you said, in the white shirt. And so at that point, tensions are high. If they're hearing what sounds like gunshots, I think that's when they start returning fire, and some of them could probably see it. It's unfortunate that it almost looks like McAtee, maybe at this point we saw a lot of people coming into his business to take cover. It almost makes it look like he was waving some others in, and maybe there were gunshots fired somewhere else or right there around him, and then he takes the shot. So it is, again, one of those things you need to look at and you need to form your opinion on.
It's a lot of chaos for sure. Louisville's business owners, already coping with the impact of COVID-19, are upset about being targeted during the protests. A wave of violence, vandalism, and looting that was unrelated to the peaceful downtown protests unfolded in the days since the demonstrations began. Some property and business owners have been frustrated with the police department's response to the rioting. The LMPD arrested 136 people between last Thursday and Monday nights, including some for looting. One of the businesses struck was at Kroger, 28th and Broadway. It's one of the only grocery stores in the West Louisville food desert.
If y'all want to stand here and protest and do all that, let's stand together in our own neighborhood and stand up. Don't videotape people breaking in our store, man, when you can stop it. If you're going to be out there with the peaceful protest, stay out there doing that. When it's time to dismantle and leave, leave.
2 Louisville area malls decided to close today, citing, quote, an abundance of caution. Keith, I generally think that the majority of people feel the same way as that gentleman did.
Yeah, I mean, especially when it's going on in their neighborhoods, and you would think they would want to honor those businesses by going in and buying items from them rather than going in at these times and looting out of them. And who knows, maybe a lot of these people are the ones that are coming in from out of town, but it seemed to happen at a lot of these protest sites, and not just now, but that we've seen even in the past.
All right, now a look at a couple of other headlines involving the protests. A well-known pastor was taken into custody during a demonstration on Monday in a Louisville suburb. The Reverend Timothy Finley Jr. with Kingdom Fellowship Christian Life Center was leading a group of protesters when St. Matthews police officers responded to the scene. The St. Matthews chief says Finley was handcuffed and taken into a cruiser and eventually released after being cited because the protesters were blocking a road.
As soon as his hand touched my shoulder was, "Stop resisting." And he said it very, very loud. I looked at him and I said, "Sir, you know I'm not resisting." And at that point, they attempted to do the leg sweep and all of that. They threw me down. One guy put his knee in my back. The other guy put his knee in my leg. This is not about me, but I want people to see just how quickly and how easily these things escalate, and how easily it is for a black man to lose his life on the street for simply doing something that the Constitution says we're allowed to do.
In Callaway County, 2 men have been arrested for targeting protesters yesterday evening. One man allegedly pointed a gun at them while another drove by and pepper sprayed them and is accused of trying to drive through the crowd. Keith, I've seen now several videos of cars driving through crowds. That ain't good.
No, that's part of it that scares me maybe the most. And even sometimes seeing people wielding baseball bats and things like that. I haven't seen them used, but I've seen them being carried around. Maybe they're feeling for their protection. Maybe they're wanting to use them. I don't know. But, I love the fact that we have seen some of the tension going out of some of these protests, and we've seen them become much more peaceful recently, although the weekend is coming, and I could see us having some more protests pretty heavily involved coming up.
Well, in Lexington, protesters continue to gather downtown, and while things have been mostly peaceful, a couple of arrests have been made. Last night's protest once again included a march to the police station where demonstrators were angry that officers made arrests from the night before. They accused police of not being genuine about change. Police say on Monday night, one protester got violent, damaged property, and was hurting people. His arrest citation says 19-year-old Colbert Wilson climbed on top of a cruiser and encouraged others around him to flip it over while an officer was still inside, among other things. Police also arrested a 15-year-old for disorderly conduct and menacing. Keith, I think in some cases arrests are probably unavoidable.
Yeah, I mean, especially when they're standing up on a cruiser like that, trying to incite, I guess, some more damage. So you're right. I mean, in some of these cases, we can't just say you can go through the streets and do what you want, and there can be some sort of action sometimes. But that's why I love the fact that, again, they're becoming a little more peaceful and they're doing their marches down the street.
Yeah, that's why I didn't get really the Louisville one. They were blocking the street, so they arrested people. I thought we could do that. All right, turning to Kentucky's COVID-19 crisis. Some county superintendents say it would be nearly impossible to reopen their schools in the fall under guidelines suggested by the state. The education commissioner heard from superintendents during a recent meeting regarding the advice about social distancing on school buses and relying on children to wear masks. School leaders say it would be too difficult to keep kids apart and protected, and asked whether it would be better to continue NTI learning from home. On the other hand, there is the financial reality that not having kids attend in person could cost schools in funding that is based on attendance. Keith, that's not the only economic impact. If you have to be at home with your kids during the day, then you can't be at work.
And not only that, again, it comes down to how are all these kids going to be evenly distributed books and computers, and are we making sure everybody has the internet and that's taken care of? So yeah, but again, it's going to be hard. I can't see all the kids wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart when it comes time to go back to class and be on the school bus.
I can't either. Temperature checks, probably a must, though. If they can do that, well, hopefully we can get back to school. All right, up next on Hey Kentucky, we take a break from some of the more somber headlines to talk horse racing. Keeneland's Bob Elliston will join me to talk about the plans for a first-of-its-kind summer meet. Stay with us.